Bodhi Rae Brannick is her name.
And
That's right.
she was absolutely phenomenal in the movie. Because especially when you're going,
Yes.
when you're acting with a powerhouse like Jason Statham, to be able to have just as much presence on the camera, it is an absolutely phenomenal thing. And for such a young actor to be able to do that, I was like, wow, I can't wait to see what's next for her.
You will see a lot of Bodhi Rae. She is an absolute star in the making. And I love what you just talked about, because I've always told people you can put all these Academy Award winners on camera together, and it doesn't mean they're going to have chemistry. It doesn't mean that you're going to have that. We've seen those movies. We're like, what's missing? Well, it's called chemistry. And the minute we screen tested Bodhi Rae and Jason, you knew it. I mean, the minute they were together and started doing a scene, Jason looked over at me like, where do we go from here? Because this is the girl. Like, we knew that she was our Jessie.
Yeah, I have to, when you talk about your directorial style, one of the things that I absolutely loved, no spoiler, I promise, is the scenes in the car, when it's just the two of them in the car and the camera just goes from back, because so many great conversations take place while you're driving, while you're in a vehicle, and to see the emotions on both of their faces while it's just a very pivotal point in the movie, because you're learning about them, you're learning about the past, you're learning about what's happening, and the way that they interact with each other in the car together, it's just, for me, that was like phenomenal right there, because I'm like, you feel like you're part of that car ride where you can be a part of this conversation and you're getting to know these people.
I love that. You know, Jello brought it up earlier about the way in the movie how silent it is at the start, and I like slow burns. I love a movie that doesn't spoon feed you everything at the top, where you can actually start to understand the mystery of these characters. Who are they? And unravel that yarn in a way that you finally get to a point where you understand who they are. Not only do you understand them, but now you don't want them to lose each other. And that's that great journey, so that you're not just watching mindless action. I feel like we're in this great bell curve where the bell curve is going back into authentic action, character driven, the way the 70s were. Yeah. The way that, like, Charlie Bronson you brought up, you know, the Steve McQueens, you know, the Westerns where they had something to say, they were flawed characters, because we're all flawed. That's why we related to them. Then we went through this whole area of comic book where everybody was 10 feet tall, bulletproof, impervious to pain. No way would they have a flaw. And we're kind of getting back to people want real. They want it real. And I think you're going to love Shelter, because Shelter is a very raw portrayal of two people, two lost souls that find one another in this big kick-ass action ride that takes you on a gauntlet run. You know, once the action starts, it just never stops. But you get those moments of character, of thing, and you understand that what they mean to another and what they mean to one another. One of the things that I think is my favorite part of the movie is that normally you have an action star like Jason where you put him and another big wrecking ball together and you just watch them kick ass.
Right.
But you can't do that in this movie because there's a child at stake. So he has to actually make sure that she's okay while he's defending himself, and to make sure that she's not brought into his storm. And I love that conflict. I think that's what makes this movie special for Jason.
As you say, you want people to see it in theaters. Well, there's certain cameras that you use specifically because you want them to see it in theaters, right?
100%. So we shoot digitally now, and we shot this movie in 8K. It's the equivalent of 70 millimeter film. It's the equivalent of the size of large format. The way that we used to see big CinemaScope movies, this movie can be projected in IMAX. It can be projected in Dolby Vision. We're doing D-Box with this one. You want that cinematic experience. It is made for the large screen, and the sound. My sound designers, Mission Impossibles, Top Gun Maverick,
love it.
No Time to Die, like all the biggest movies where you feel like you're a part of it, you're going to get that with Shelter.
No spoilers, I promise, but there's one scene with a fork when I was just
as she
like...
continues to spoil it.
It's just a little bit where I'm talking about a fork, but I'm like sitting there and I'm like, that legit, like you felt that. Like when you're talking about how you feel it, like you legit feel that. I'm like, yeah, okay. Now I'm looking at silverware completely different because of it. You brought your experience from, hey, I used to do these stunts. I know how this should be. I know how this should look. And I just think that that's always the chef's kiss when you have people who know how it's supposed to look because they were doing it to begin with.
I appreciate that. I think it's also about that I know how it feels. And everybody asked me, like, what was it like to do stunts? What was it like to be set on fire? What was it like to, drive 200 miles an hour? What they're asking me is, how did it feel? What was the rush? What was the exhilaration? My job is to give you that exhilaration, to give you that rush, to give you that sense of feel in the action. We've all seen those movies where our eyes glaze over at the action because we're just not connected to it. I want you connected. I want you in it.
Yeah, and it definitely, like I was even mentioning in the car rides and everything, you definitely feel connected to it. You are part of what's going on. You are part of this little plot and everything that's happening. So I appreciate that in this movie so much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a big Marvel comic book head. Is it destroying the industry, or do you feel like it's actually making it better? That's my first question. And number two, would you be willing to direct?
I don't think that they're ruining the business. I think that we like award movies. We like the big, huge superhero movies and the Marvel movies. And we like grounded movies and real movies. We like comedies. I think it's about all the forms of entertainment. No different than music, right? We like all of our different genres of music. We don't, just because we love one genre doesn't mean we don't appreciate other genres. And I think that people have to remember movies are no different, right? And as far as Marvel, yeah, I would. It would be like the X-Men series where they're about people. It's speaking to something, and like which is not Marvel, but look where they're taking Batman.
Yes.
Completely different now. So I think what's happening is they're finding substance in these characters because Marvel, little spoiler or a little fact history, my father was the original TV series Spider-Man in the 70s. And so I got to meet Stan Lee. And Stan Lee would talk about that his characters were us. Look at all of his Peter Parkers. Look at all his different characters. They all had something that we were related to, right? That's why we all loved comic books so much, because we related to the people within them. Ordinary people, then extraordinary circumstances. That's cinema. And so those movies where, and those stories of Marvel where it grips me, I would have loved to direct Logan.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. So like there's 100%, there are those avenues that I'm really into, and I love true stories. There's something that I'm entertaining right now about directing next that's a true story that I love. And so there's all facets of it. The route that you'll always get with me, at least I hope so, is they're going to be emotionally connected. They're going to be character-driven stories that have something to say, big, hopefully, entertainment rides, right? So I want to wrap them in a big, shiny wrapper and make them why we want to spend 2 hours in a movie theater together and experience things. But they're going to have a substance to them. They're going to have an emotional attachment to them.
Is there a difference between a movie and a film?
Yeah, I think that there's two forms of escapism. One is take me into Avatar, take me into something that's completely different, visceral world. Let me just forget everything in my world for 2 hours. And then there's a different form of escapism, which was my movie Greenland. Greenland was literally a disaster movie that was coming out in the middle of a global disaster. We didn't know about COVID. We didn't know about COVID. And then I started freaking out. I'm like, who's going to want to watch a disaster in the middle of a disaster? And it was number one all over the world. And we couldn't open movie theaters here in the U.S. because there were no movie theaters yet. And yet it became the highest deal in streaming ever at that time. And a lot of people saw it because I got to escape COVID, but I got to live vicariously through real things that I'm dealing with. Will you be selfish or will you be selfless in the time of life or death?
If you had to describe the DNA of a Ric Roman Waugh film in just 3 words and how Shelter fits into that legacy, what would they be?
Can I give you 4 words?
All right, I'll take 4.
Character-driven action ride.
Love it.
There you go.
Love it.
See, I need the 4.
I
need the 4 because I got to put character in there too. I could give you just action, but I want both. And that's honestly everything for me. When I read a script, it has to emotionally grip me because I'm going to give you the action right. I'm going to put it on a big canvas. But if I don't feel it, then how do I expect you to feel it?
Yeah. By the way, this is an amazing month for you. You have Greenland 2 coming out, and you also have Shelter coming out. So
just a short flex.
Yeah, you're just
totally slight flex.
You're absolutely coming out, running out the gate in 2026. So that right there is phenomenal. But it's even every time like you associate with the characters, you feel like you're part of the characters, and you feel those raw emotions. Where I remember watching Greenland, where I just wanted to like punch somebody in that movie. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh God, yeah. And even in Shelter, like I'm sitting there like, oh, like, oh, it just gets you where you're, because you're part of this mission and you definitely want to, kind of get your chops in there too.
Yeah, if I go into a dark alley, I want him with me.
Right. Me too.
I want Jason by my side.
Me too, but for other reasons. But yeah, we'll just...
Listen, we're looking for this movie to be a great success. It's called Shelter, starring Jason Statham, in theaters January 30th. The director of the film, Ric Roman Waugh. Waugh, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Thank you for coming
Thank
through.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I better go see this movie. Look into my eyes. Come close. Bring that camera close. Look at my eyes. January 30th. You better watch the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be there because my wife is going to force me to go. Love y'all.